I'm Steve Wilde. I'm the General Manager of Downtown QT. So this is me. Oh, so cute. That's me standing on the town pier in 1979. I was 5 years old. It's my earliest memory of Queenstown. Oh, look at that beautiful hair. I love that hair. Gosh, little did I know where I'd be in another 40 years' time. Amazing. And this was the scene in the 70s, the Queenstown Mall and the council taking its first baby steps to move in a new direction. Taking cars off the streets and creating that pedestrian mall. Controversial? Do you think it was controversial? Yes, it was. It was controversial. And this here, about the same time, a picture painted by Alan Cook. It's called Queenstown the Way Marigold would like it. It hangs in the council chambers today. Marigold Miller was a councillor and she wanted to stop the world. Well, kind of. She helped save the Earnslaw, the Park Street Reserve and the stone buildings by the old courthouse. She was a bit of a crusader and she was a visionary. And in the mid-2000s I went to visit the great Queenstown hospitality doyen Iris O'Connell. I lamented the fact the town was changing and wasn't she horrified by it all? Her answer was, well, no, I'm not actually. She moved here in the 1930s, built a hotel with her husband, and she took ownership of the town, like personally took it, right into her heart. She said, when I arrived here, there was still canvas and corrugated iron in the mall. We needed rid of it all. We needed to build like mad. And then she said, I watched my own hotel be built, and then I watched it being torn down again and replaced by a shopping centre. Yes, she told me, I've seen this town be rebuilt 3 times over since I arrived, and she said, it's not finished yet. And then she laughed. She said, this is all about compromise. She was nearly 100 years old when I talked to her then, and people called her a visionary. I thought she was lovely. And then at a similar time, I met with this man, Hilton Hensman, Mr. Skyline. He built the gondola, and he was standing in the rubble of the bottle house, the folly he built on Frankton Road. And he was kind of sad. You could see it in his eyes. And I stood with him as the diggers crushed each and every single bottle he had placed by hand to build that place. And I asked him what he thought. And he said to me, this town is not finished yet, and it'll be great when it is. And he sort of chuckled. He said sometimes you've got to let a few things go and look at the big picture. He'd hacked down those trees up on the hill to put the cableway in. And you know, some people thought that was a silly idea. He was definitely a visionary. But looking back at all these people, it gives me the impression that being completed isn't really the goal. It's about honing the masterpiece. Iris and Hilton also left me with this. They were forceful personalities in their own way. Not everyone agreed with them, but they were committed to a vision, and they also realised that sometimes you have to compromise. And dear Margaret Templeton, she was a visionary, rounding up her crew, ladies and a few gentlemen. They helped save the gardens from the developers, the people who build things. They rallied people around them and they made it happen, and people followed them. And the Guardians of the Gardens, the group she formed, is still around today. And some people believed in these jokers too, but if we put Sir Robert aside and think about Mr. Cooper for a minute, who was in the audience, he actually did a very good thing. When he was the Mayor of Queenstown in the early 70s, he stamped his feet in Wellington and he told them we needed some help down here. And the commonage land deal he negotiated was a very elegant solution for its day. The council could sell off bits of public land on Queenstown Hill to pay for infrastructure into the future. It was controversial, it was purposeful, and Mr. Cooper took responsibility. He was a visionary. Well, don't forget, years later, he also had a bit of a battle with Sam Neill about growth in the town. Those were the days of socialist Chardonnay. Cooper always had that wit. And so here we are today, to build or not to build, to stay or not to stay, to save or not to save. It's the same old Queenstown story, and the keyboard warriors are typing, but more tellingly, who's actually taking any ownership or responsibility for all of this? And whatever side you're on, well, you're all here for a good start. And whatever you say about the town centre master plan process, is the first time in 20 years that I can remember that all the people who live here can be involved in that discussion. Hats off to the council for that. There's a strong commitment too by the funding agencies to put the cash on the table and actually see this through. So what do I think it should be like? Well, Downtown QT laid out its vision 2.5 years ago. A new arterial route around the town, subsidised public transport, a pedestrian-first policy, and Queenstown's cultural attributes to the fore. It is, as you see it in the master plan documents, a people-friendly town where our residents feel they have ownership again. And Queenstown has always been, of course, a push and pull of different personalities. Here's Sam with his socialist Chardonnay. But I'm hoping with the master plan process we can try and get some accord. We won't all be able to have it the way we see it, but we might just get a lot of what we want. An open conversation is a good thing to have. Some conversations, of course, are a bit difficult, but if we're open and positive, we can realise a better future for our town. I think the biggest thing I want out of it is that we get a renewed sense of civic pride. When I arrived here 20 years ago, I think we were all a bit like Iris O'Connell. We felt we owned the town. Not in an arrogant way, yes, there was hair back then as well. Not in an arrogant way, but we took ownership of the town centre into our hearts. That pride is still there just below the surface. I feel it starting to come back again. I know locals really do care about the town centre and want it to thrive. Queenstown still represents one of the best places to live and work and play in the world, in the entire world. This town centre is at the heart of all that. It's the historical core of this community, and it must be constantly honed to ensure it flourishes. Even the Māori people, when they sat on the beach they called Tahuna, knew this little bay had a magical power, long before the first building was even here. And so I think we need to take that innate power we all hold in our hearts and be sure to channel that into a fulfilling conversation. It's like the pounamu, the taonga, that many of us wear around our necks. It can be honed, it can be reshaped, but it always carries its foundation essence from one generation to the next, and that's our responsibility. Thank you.